Welcome back to Jikma's podcast, people, where I explore what it means to be an immigrant to immigrants like myself. Today, I'm talking with Roy Ratnavel, who moved to Canada at 18. He was a prisoner when he was 17 back in Sri Lanka because of the Tamil. I don't want to call that a war. I feel that was a genocide, to be honest, but that's my personal opinion. But this is such a really, really good conversation, and I'm so excited about it. Like, I really hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy talking to him, because I think we explore basically one that tendency for us immigrants to start self-pitying and playing the victim all the time. It's so easy. I do that sometimes. I'm falling for that. But I like how Roy sees the world, and especially because if you consider what he's gone through and how he sees the world, it's amazing. But I guess it's people who have seen the harshest parts of the world that understand it better. By the way, I think you should find his book and read. He has this is memoir, tells his story. I think that's a good book. But enjoy. People, I have with me the author of this book. Like, please, please, please go get this book. Honestly. Like, because first of all, thank you for writing your story, honestly, because people go through what you went through and they either shrivel up
Hmm.
or they help destroy the world.
Right.
You know, and I feel like that will even kick off, like, for me, the first thing I question I wanted to ask you, which is, so you went through all that and then you become an immigrant. And the immigrant conversation is one that, whether we want to accept it or not, there's some adversity that comes with it. Like, there's the adversity that comes with being an immigrant. You're starting life afresh, it's all new and all. And so how did you manage that? Like, how do you manage that balance of basically overcoming your demons of what you had experienced before you moved to Canada, while at the same time try to settle down? Because you talk about it in the book, but I
Hmm.
did feel, I could just sense that Roy sanitized that a bit to some extent. And correct me
Right.
if I'm wrong, but I was like, he sanitized this to some extent, and there's more. Like, what's the story behind the story that didn't come out?
Right. Well, listen, first of all, thank you for having me and thanks for this conversation. And thank you for reading the book and for your kind feedback. Um, well, listen, let's start with this. I think without giving away the book too much. So, just a background story. I was a political prisoner in Sri Lanka at the age of 17. And at the age of 18, when miraculously I escaped from the prison or released from the prison, my father decided that maybe there is no future for a Tamil young boy like me in Sri Lanka, and thought that Canada might be the land of opportunity. And now that I look back in that time frame, and I can now sort of say this to myself, how right he was in his
Yeah.
assessment. So I landed here at the age of 18 in 1988, with nothing in my pocket, but with full of hope in my heart. And coming to a new country, and I had an uncle here, but he was also new to the country. But I knew I had to fend for myself. And so a few days later, my father passed away. He was killed. So that left me with the feeling that I have to live for two people. And I thought if I did well enough in life, somehow I could give him the life that he should have had. So that became sort of the furnace of ambition, the coal for the furnace of ambition for my life. But it's a big but. I became, I guess, after everything that I experienced, I became, I developed this sort of a victim mentality where I blamed everything that happened to me from that point onwards on everybody else except myself. And that went on for a good decade. So let's say 18 to early 30s. And I look back on that track record of mine and I saw a very poor track record. Um,
Mm.
I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve for my father and myself. I was constantly angry, constantly shifting blame, transferring my trauma to unknown people, not the people who did horrible things to me, but just general public. So I thought maybe the output that I am experiencing, the bad output, is because of terrible input. As Einstein once said, expecting a different result
Yeah.
by doing the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
So I sort of came to the conclusion perhaps it's me that's
Mm.
causing this problem. I needed to take a good look at myself in the mirror and say what could I have done differently to have a better outcome. So that became my sort of turning point in my life. I would say maybe I was 31 years old, and I dramatically changed the way I did things, I viewed things, and I came to this conclusion that circumstances makes you a victim, but your choices makes you remain as one.
Mm.
So I had to change my options and the choices I made. So I started taking responsibility. I started taking, I would say, I went to war with the man in the mirror,
I
right?
like that.
Yeah, and to completely rebrand myself, and I realized at some point I had some level of PTSD from the trauma, so that needed some third party intervention. So I sought help and started working with a therapist to kind of reframe the way I looked at things. And fast forward from then to 2 decades later, clearly the outcome has been exactly what I wanted, and I'm happy for it.
Honestly, like it's really good to hear you say that. Um, especially because I can't. First of all, like I'm thinking about what you said. You moved here. You came here at 17. You came here at 18, I
18.
believe. Popsy died a few days later, and I'm really sorry. Like when I read that in the book, I just stopped and because I'm like, what the hell? Is
Mm,
this guy gonna get a break at all?
mm,
And, and then it takes you till you're 31 to kind of find yourself again. Like that is 12, 13 years of dealing with that emotional toll in your head.
right. I always say that I was living a transactional life. You get up, you go to work, you
Yeah,
make some money, you come back. Get up, you go to work, make some money, and come back. And but meanwhile, the anger was lurking underneath, and you lash out on the smallest things. What I want to do is become transformational in my life. Just getting over the burden of the past.
yeah,
I believe that all you can control in life is how you respond to life. I mean, ideally, I wish I didn't go to prison. Ideally, I wish my father was still alive.
yeah.
Um, but ideally, I also wish that I'm 6'9" and played in NBA. But I'm not even close to being six. Um, so so you have to I don't want to simplify life. I know there are
Yeah,
real challenges people face. I don't want to minimize that, but really, you know, if you got a set of cards and they're bad cards, sometimes you just have to reshuffle and get another set of cards. And I know it's easily said than done. I get
yeah,
it. Um, but I think at the end of the day, um, my father used to say when I was a little kid that, son, there are two types of problems in this world: yours and everybody else's. Nobody will fix yours, right?
By
And
the way, I think your dad is very was a very wise man. Cause like, yeah,
he was. It's a very tough lesson for a little kid, but it's a good lesson. The other one he used to say is that if you ask for sympathy, you'll get a lot of those, but sympathy never solved an issue. And I know that full well because my father passed away 35, 37 years ago. And I remember a lot of people in the family and friends, they say what they always say, just give us a call if you need anything. 37 years later, I don't know where these people are, right? And I don't blame them because people have their lives,
Yeah.
and that's what you say to people, and you just got to take it with a grain of salt and move on and figure out a way to look. Is this country perfect? Not at all. But is this country better than at least what I left behind? 1,000 times better than what I left behind.
Yeah.
You know, countries evolve, cultures evolve, people evolve, right? And just look back in Canada, even in my lifetime in this country, how much it changed
Yeah.
for the better,
Yeah.
right? Where there's more inclusiveness, more people of color like you and I are
Mm-hmm.
holding positions of power, um, have decision making power in policy making.
Yeah.
These were not even like 30 years ago, that was not the case.
Yeah.
More tolerant, more understanding, more opportunity giving.
Yeah.
I'm not saying by perfect any means, but
Yeah.
there are people still want to come here. Droves of people want to come here. That in itself is a testament for the nation that we are
Yeah.
living here. And I
Yeah.
think the comment I often make to new immigrants and also immigrants uh, like myself and yourself is that we have a responsibility as well as immigrants. Um, Often people talk about their rights, never their responsibilities. Um, I think
It's
our
the human
responsibility.
curse. It's the human curse. Like like that's a curse we carry for some reason.
Right. I think the our responsibility as people of this nation is to leave behind this country better than we have found it.
Yeah.
Whatever the way you can do, whether giving your time to a hospital or charity, giving your time to some young people to coach them up, or giving your money or giving your expertise, whatever you are able to do, every one of us need to do that for this nation. I believe that because if it wasn't for Canada, I don't think I'll be alive.
Mm.
So I'm eternally indebted to this nation for giving me not only just a life. My father used to say, don't just survive, but live,
Yeah.
right? That is sort of my message. So the book is, if you and you read the book, the prison part is only a small part of the book.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh
The
yeah.
rest is about survival and then living.
Yeah.
And really, I would say it's a love letter to Canada if you want to look at the book, right? And so that's how I look at it. So,
Yeah. Because that thing you say about I've been here only 5 years. So I'm still pretty fresh.
mm,
But like I that thing you say about how times have changed. It reminds me of two things. One, first, it's a movie I was watching with my wife, and it's a fictional movie. It's magic and stuff, magical realism, and so they're two humans trying to tie down a fairy,
mhm,
and she makes a statement. I forget the exact statement right now, but what she meant in her statement was that humans don't have patience.
mhm,
Like humans are do very poor with being patient. We're not very patient people, and she was willing to wait, but she wasn't sure humans were going. She was always going to outwit them and
mhm,
tire them out because she has more patience than human beings. And it reminds me of something. There's a fella interviewed Clint Boudram. He manages TD Bank, Western Canada, and he said he moved here 40 years ago, and he was saying on his episode, on his recording, that if you told him when he landed here that today he will be where he is today and he'll be working with the more colored people and he's helping colored people find themselves and all that stuff, he'd be like, no, those are you're joking.
mhm,
And I think what I left that conversation with was, and when I combined it too, is that most times we see the now and we think that things change fast. Things change really slowly, but they take time to change.
right.
However, we also tend to forget that we play a role in the change, Like we kind of help the change, which
Right.
is what we saw you're saying about we all have a role to play in this and how we, how we build bridges and how we talk to other people and how we connect. Like just we all have a role to play. If we're just expecting the system to just get up one day and
Right.
just become better, then like it's never going to happen because we're
Right.
kind of outsourcing responsibility to someone else.
Yeah, I agree, and I look at every individual as a corporation, right?
Mm,
And that
mm,
individual is the CEO of that corporation called the individual, and so you're in charge of that,
mm,
right? And my the line that I used, I believe, is also in the book, is that human beings should be guaranteed only two things: freedom and choice, right? When you have that, the society will reward you for the good choices you make, and either will punish you or not reward you for the bad choices you make. And that's the price of freedom, right? For an
mm.
example, if I'm 100% within my right to use alcohol, okay? I can drink as much as I want as long as that's my freedom, right? I can do
Yeah,
that to myself. As long as I don't get in the car and drive and cause death or damage, then I get punished.
yeah,
See, that's the price of freedom. And I think people need to understand the nuance in that.
yeah,
So, so for me, coming to this country from a country that was authoritarian, where I can free to think, free to dissent, free to speak, free to do whatever I want, within limits, obviously, then I thought, wow, I mean, how could I not win this game as long as I'm in control of what I do,
yeah,
right? And the first 10 years was wasted just fighting myself, my silly battles, then really focusing and become laser focused on what I wanted to do, right? And I realized at some level in my life, there are three stages to life, right? The first stage, you are learning. So that goes somewhere from 0 to 25. The second stage, 25 to maybe 50 ish, is what I call earning. The last stage, somewhere from 55 or 50 onwards, where I am now, the third stage of life is returning, right? So learn, earn, return, because this is a part of life where you give back to society, and you can only give three things back to society or humanity: time, money, and expertise. So those three things, time, money, and expertise, are unlikely that a person will possess at a very young age.
yeah,
If you're Mark Zuckerberg, you'll have a lot of money, and so those things are anomalies at the end. But
yeah,
generally, most people will not have time when they're young because they're building a life. They don't have money because they're spending and
yeah,
buying things. Certainly don't have expertise. So once you in the the return stage, chances are you'll have those three. And the hardest thing to give is time.
yeah,
Writing a check is easy. The hardest thing is time. And so I sort of like how I wanted to kind of end my life in a way is like where I needed to realize that, I don't want to live my life on spreadsheet tracking my net worth. Um, it's a terrible way to live life.
oh, it is. Oh, it
Yeah,
is.
money is important. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at some point, how much money is important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How much is
Because
enough?
anyone who says money doesn't buy you happiness, they don't know where to shop. Uh, but kidding aside, you need some money,
Mm,
um, but also you need to do good. I don't want to sound sanctimonious, but I feel happier when I give some time to a young person to help them with the interview or open a door on Bay Street for an opportunity, especially someone from the immigrant community.
yeah.
I do a lot of that because when I was a young man on Bay Street, I was the only one man on Bay Street who looked like this. And luckily, I had a very good mentor who
Yeah.
mentored me, and that was invaluable to me. Who was, he's highlighted in the book, Bill
Yeah. Yeah.
Holland, is in the name. And so I'm giving that time to these young people to give them opportunities on Bay Street or finance world, or giving expertise like, okay, listen, your resume is not reading well. Here's how you want to do it,
Yeah.
to get people's attention. And then the other thing is, certainly working with, hospital foundations, trying to help hospital in Scarborough because where the immigrants are, and it's uh, grossly underfunded, and so to me that gives me happiness, and I really want to do, as long as I'm alive. The average male from my part of the world live to be about 75, right? So I look at it this way: I have 20 more summers left.
Oh gosh, like when you look at it that way, it's like gosh, like time is gone. Like and it flies so fast, which is
I
scary.
know, I know. I mean, I so I'm in Toronto now. I moved to Vancouver when I was um, about 27, and I came back here around 30 something. Sorry, 40 something. 20 years went like that, right?
Yeah.
And I've been here almost 9 years now, right? And it just felt like that. And it goes fast. And I'm not trying to bum people out. Time flies. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how big of a bank account you had,
Yeah.
what kind of car you drove, or what kind of house you
Yeah.
lived. It really is matters as what kind of impact you made on someone's life or a
Yeah.
society. And that's sort of the legacy that everybody should strive for
Yeah.
in any small way or big way. I mean, everybody's got their own aspirations and beliefs, and mine is just looking back. I'm so glad and happy, goddamn lucky that I'm alive today. And so
I can
uh,
imagine.
I I I thought I would never make it past the age of 20, and here I am, ripe age of 55, and loving it and enjoying life, and all because um, life needs a little bit of luck, but a lot of effort, and the effort
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
self-induced.
Yeah.
It can go positively or it can go negatively.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of skedaddling along. It's something you talk about a lot in your book, which is I feel like it's a central theme in your writing in a way. It shows up in different ways. Is like how do you hold two truths at once? Like which is basically we acknowledge that systemic bias, racism, they're all real challenges.
Hmm.
But again, still saying to yourself, I'm not a victim in this system somehow. And it's such a I don't know if I'm fully there yet, to be honest. Like I feel I'm much better than I'm in a much better place than I was probably like 4 years ago. But is how do you do that? Because I could almost see it felt like that was a theme all the way through. And even when you were in your dark place, you somehow didn't allow those things define you somehow. Like it was just interesting how you always kind of fought that. You never felt like a victim. And I think your
Right.
dad played a huge role in that though, because but it's like how do you balance that? How do you hold those two truths? These things do exist.
Yeah.
There's race, there'll be people who will be assholes and who will be racist and stuff. But that
Right.
doesn't define me. I remember that story you talk about the where you got to the brought the car to the gate and then some guy said
Yeah. Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah. No. Look, I always had a fighter inside me, and I didn't think. Sure, I always say that when you're a minority
mm-hmm,
anywhere in the world, right, um, you're going to run into terrible people, right? And as long as there's no institutionalized racism, for an example, where I came from, it was institutionalized, right? You're a Tamil, so you're not going to have any opportunity, right? Um, so now compare that to Canada. Yeah, there are racist people, but nowhere in the law books that says you or I cannot enter a
mm-hmm,
building or go to this place or be in a bus or in a train. And so those things are not there. So at some level, it's a level playing field, right? I don't want
Yeah.
to simplify this. I mean, there are real challenges. Don't get me wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
For the most part, it is leveled out. Now, having said that, you're still going to deal with that terrible person in the boardroom, okay, who has the inherent biases towards you or I. But the reality is that no matter what type of people out there, it doesn't stop you from achieving greatness,
Mm.
right? And your ability to do great things. Um, but if you let them impact you, if you let them get riled up, you're really playing into their hands of that the racist definitions, whatever that might be. So I used to play that game when I was young. I know before we started recording, we talked about it briefly, and you're right. I used to like, the best revenge is living well, right? And I remember when I wanted to become, I wanted to go to the West and try myself and rate, like be the front office guy. Because I noticed that a lot of the immigrants, they're good workers, hard workers, smart, dedicated workers. They're always put in the back office, right? And I realized the action is in the front office. That's where the more money is. That's where the more accolade is. That's where the opportunity to rise about,
Yeah.
to get recognized. And I was told I couldn't do it because I had an accent. I'm not, blonde eyes, blue eyes, so blonde hair, blue eyes. I didn't have access to golf clubs. I didn't have chalets. I didn't have parents with cottages. So these things were a real headwind if you think about
Yeah.
it. Actually, in fact, what someone told me, you don't know any rich people, right?
Damn.
And so I said, hey, listen, um, give me a chance, and I'll prove you wrong. And so I went to Vancouver in 1997, and I realized that I'm going to use this differentiation, which is me, and I don't look like anyone else in the industry. I'm going to use that to my advantage because everybody else, tall blonde guys, blue eyes, and nothing wrong with them. They're born like that. I'm not blaming them. It's an opportunity these guys had at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm going to be different. So I learned this thing called differentiating yourself because 9 out of 10 human interactions are not memorable.
Mm.
So how do you become memorable in front of the eyes of a client? Positively. I mean, you can become memorable doing wrong things too, but
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying in a positive way, how do you become memorable? So I started looking for ways to differentiate myself from the group, right? Because if you think about animals, animals blend in with the environment to survive,
Yeah.
but humans need to stand out to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to figure out what would make me stand out among this crowd of people, beside my skin color and my height. Um, and I thought, okay, I'm going to provide information that are unique and different than the rest of them do, right? If you look at our industry, I'm from a financial services industry. People read Barron's, Economist, um, the usual standard publication to get their knowledge, right? I started reading things that are abnormal, outside of the realm of things, where I brought information that are so unique and different,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people started to see myself as a guy with better information, better guidance than the other 9 guys that come to the office. So I started getting more traction. And at some point in British Columbia, I became the largest capital raiser in the history of the company. And then that led me to become the senior VP for entire Western operation for CI Financial. And then I was very successful in building a very successful team, a cohesive, successful team. Because I understood that when you become a leader, your job isn't to lead, your job is to create new leaders.
Yeah.
And I work with managers who did things right, but they never did the right things.
Mm.
And so I thought, if my team members are successful to a point where they can actually take my job, then I've done my job, right? So I became sort of a good team builder, and that led me to become the head of national team and the head of distribution and the executive VP, and then eventually retired 2 years ago as the vice chairman of a company that I started as a mailroom boy, right? So when people tell me there's racism and this and that, yeah, I mean there are racist people, but that didn't stop me from getting to where I am today. And I'll give you one caveat: just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that everybody's different. Everybody is in a different environment. Maybe I was in an environment that was a lot more open to people like myself,
Yeah.
which I actually believe. But having said that, there are certain underlining ingredients that goes into a successful success of a person. One is, how do you differentiate yourself, right? And I always say three things is important: differentiate, communicate, appreciate.
Mm.
First, differentiate yourself. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from the crowd? Second, communicate. Like, communication is so important. It doesn't matter at home with the missus or your spouse or with your kid. It doesn't matter with your friends, whether it's with your clients or with your employees or with your coworkers. Communication is key. Um, it's like laws of physics; it applies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I tell people to master the art of communication.
Mm.
Say things with little words as possible, quick as possible to get to the point, right? So differentiate yourself, learn to communicate, and then really appreciate things in life. I never met an ungrateful, happy person. You know, like,
Agreed. Actually, like
yeah, like,
agreed.
appreciate for the life you have, the kids you have, or the spouse you have, the house. Like, appreciate life. Enjoy life, because the more miserable you become, the less successful you become.
Yeah.
And it's nothing worse than a rich person with miserable life.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, nah. Oh,
I know
gosh.
many like that, and so it's really my message always comes down to one thing: is that it's individual. Fix yourself before you fix the world, right?
Mm. Mm.
Because if you think about it, let's say if you're a good husband and then you raise good kids, right? So then it becomes a good household. If every household is that like that, then it becomes a good community, good society.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have strong communities, strong societies, the country becomes stronger. And
Yes.
so everything is ground up,
Mm.
not top down, right?
Yeah.
Because the government cannot control what goes on in your head or in the four walls of your home,
Mm.
right? There's no regulation can stop that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to, I'm not saying individual as a selfish notion. I'm just saying as a as a person, I need to first fix my flaws
Yeah. Before I point
and
out
my
others.
shortcomings before I can help others. So,
Yeah.
the good example is when you're flying, they say in the unlikely event of emergency, put the mask on first.
Before you. Oh, that.
And then assist the person next to you, right? So for me, it's like, fix yourself, be stable, so that you can be the help for the fellow travelers, you see.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of my message in the book. I'm sure you read it, and you
Yeah.
know what that's what I'm saying in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that back to your point about back to your point about it doesn't really work for everybody, or I mean, like the fact where you talked about that maybe the systems in which you found yourself in were more accommodating and had all those things. I think the thing to add there is, yes, it might not work for everybody, but I think that the important thing is you want to be able to say to yourself, I did put in the effort.
Correct.
You want to say, you know what,
Right.
it didn't work out, but I know that I
Right.
didn't shirk, or I did not
Right.
just, I put in the effort to get this done. I didn't work out. I think at the core of human beings and how we handle failure and disappointment, if you when you don't put in the effort, and I mean, you can lie to yourself if you want, and that's okay. Some people do that. But if you're
Right.
being honest with yourself, you will know
Right.
that really, really, I was just kind of just
I
playing around here, and I knew that this wasn't going to work out. So, but
right.
then, as usual, nowadays which goes back to the victimhood thing, we look for someone to blame, and it's so easy to say, oh, there are various things you can blame if you want to,
Right.
you know.
No, I listen. You're speaking my language here, and I've said that is that like you even by doing all the right things, you may not get the outcome you desired. Right? That
Mm-hmm.
happens. I mean, I've seen it. Like there are times I thought I was going to have this outcome, but I got a different outcome. And even though I thought I did the right things,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you know, you are not in control of the output,
Mm-hmm.
but you're 100% in charge of the input,
Yeah.
right? And you can't
Yes.
lie to yourself. You really can. And I always said if I can close my eyes when I sleep at night and I can tell myself I did everything I could possibly do to get the outcome I wanted, but I didn't get it. But as long as I can tell myself I did the right things, um, and then I'll be happy about it. And there are times I know, and I still know that I didn't do the right things. And One of the reasons I exited the business is because I just realized some of the mistakes I made along the way have caught up to me, and there's
Mm.
no way I'm going to overcome that in that position I was in. I had to leave to maybe go back to another firm one day if I chose to do it. And I don't really have any desire doing it. But I'm just saying, I know inherently, and I can't lie to myself. I could tell you, oh, I did everything I can, man, and they really screwed me over. But I know that I caused some issues, and therefore I had to decide to stay in the position I always stayed and never move up after that, or just leave. And I chose to do the latter. And I think coming to that realization is important, and it's hard to do that when you're young, I find.
Yeah, it is.
But
It
as you
is.
age, hopefully you get a little bit of couple of gray hairs and you started thinking a bit differently. And
Yeah.
Listen, to improve is to change.
Mm. Yeah.
And I always said I'm never afraid of changing. I'm afraid of not changing. And I can look back. Even just the other day, I was telling a few friends who was over here. I'm like, I cannot believe at the age of 25, I thought these things to be true, right? And embarrassed for myself to even think that I thought that. You know?
I think we all deal with that. I think we all deal with that. And kind of following up on that, and I think you kind of, it's a good follow up, which is that thing you say about lowering barriers versus lowering standards.
Yeah.
What is that? I want to explore that a bit more, especially because I don't know what the answer is. How some people make the argument that bringing in immigrants is lowering standards. You know,
No, no, that's not. So the line that I used was we need to lower the barrier,
mm-hmm,
not the bar. So, for an example, there are certain qualification you need to be a
mm-hmm.
surgeon, right?
Yes, yeah,
You need that. We can reduce that the standard of to become a surgeon just because you want to get a lot of people into it, right?
yeah.
So what I was saying is that we need to figure out how to lower the barrier for people to become surgeons. So for an
Surgeons.
example, so if you thought we don't have enough representation from people of color
Mm-hmm.
as heart surgeon, I'm just making one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you go, okay, what are the causes of these
Mm,
kids not entering faculty? So what can we do? Oh, then you can still find out, okay, they don't have access to whatever.
yeah.
It's a longer process though. Like you can't
Yes.
flick a switch and make it
Yep.
happen,
Yep.
but really addressing the core issue earlier on. And so in my small way, I'm doing this. So in my own community, I thought, okay, there's not enough. young people in the field of finance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I look at, go backwards and say, why are they not entering, right?
Mm.
So then you realize, oh, they can speak English, they're smart, mathematically inclined. The problem is they have all the hard skills, not the soft skills.
Mm.
So, for an example, I'll give you one simple example: how to sit at a dinner table and eat uh, properly, right? Or how to golf. I'm not a golfer, by the way, but I'm just saying, like, there are things that comes with certain professions that you need to get good at, right?
Mm.
You could be smart. You could be super smart on spreadsheets and understanding cash flows and finances and all that. But if you're not good at the soft skill part of it, it doesn't really gel well, right?
Mm.
So, can we create an environment for these kids to learn those soft skills so that lowers the barrier, right? That's what I'm talking about. So,
Yeah.
there's no easy fix. Um, you can have a predetermined outcome and change to lower the bar to get that. Because then you're lowering the standard. Like, you don't want a heart surgeon who's not qualified,
Yes.
right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I think those are the things I'm talking about. And to be honest, I think the politicians, the policymakers, they do things what I call superficial fixing, right? They don't fix the actual root cause of the issue. They just it's like a bad it's like a house with bad plumbing, right? And it's bad plumbing, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to paint the wall and change the carpet. It
Yeah.
looks good,
Yeah.
but everything is breaking down inside, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a big proponent of trying to address the core issues in the
Mm-hmm.
communities, whether it's access to better school, access to networking. We have a thing called Tamils in Finance, right?
Oh, interesting.
And I know there's a Blacks on Bay Street,
Yeah, I've heard about
right?
that. Yeah.
And those are important organizations because it brings confidence to kids who are of that community
Yeah.
to say, yes, I can do this too, right? So you just need mentors for people to look up to, because success leaves clues, and I said this in the book. I'm not a fan of copying from a C student. I like to copy. I like to copy from an A student. So you find someone who has
Mm.
achieved what you want to achieve, and try to copy some other things. Not all of it, because you don't want to be fake,
Yeah.
but some other things that you need to copy. Okay, he or she did this. Okay, I'm going to try to do that, but in your own authentic way. So that's what I was talking about: lowering the barrier,
Yeah. Not the
not the
bar.
bar. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good. That's a good. I think it's a probably good. I think a good follow up on that is I feel like in all of that conversation, and it goes to the politicians and how they politic. They just use politic all the time. And we talked a bit about this in the pre-show also. It kind of I feel like we have all this thing where there's now this identity politics thing, or and it's almost like that versus what does meaningful inclusion really mean?
Right.
Because sometimes it just feels like I really like something you said there where you talked about how morality it's a moral I forget the term. It's morality where people there's that high morality. Oh, I'm the good person because I'm pitying you because
Right.
you're a black person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm allying with you because the system is bad and is against
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a system you're benefiting from. And so in the end, we get into all these identity games that we just play without moving anything forward. And then we go to
Right.
things like lower the bar, not the barrier, because
Yeah.
you don't really solve the problem.
Right.
You just window dress because you haven't
Right.
really done anything.
It's what I call moral exhibitionism, right? And there are people who would tell people of my society or yours, like, oh, you guys are, you guys need help, and I'm here to. I find that more infuriating and insulting, right? Um, I truly believe that there are a lot of fake uh, activism out there, and they're not really solving the problem. They're just there to say, "Hey, look at me, I'm a good person, right?
Yeah.
I'm aligning with Roy or whoever." Those things are, for me, it's meaningless. Um, what is meaningful is really skill training. You know, really learning. Like I remember when I was a young person in the finance industry, I was afraid to talk. You know, I was afraid to do presentation. I was no stage presence. Um, people don't invest with you; they invest in you first. They have
Yeah.
to like you. Um, so I had to put myself through so many hours of training about how to speak and how to dress and how to present myself and how to, and these are not to pander, but these are facts of life. And people say don't judge the book by the cover.
Yeah.
Try doing it. Try
Yeah,
doing it.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it's visual. Um, more you communicate more visually than verbally, and so I'm never ashamed to learn to get good at that. And I'm big proponent of teaching young kids in my community or any community, people of color, doesn't matter, just teaching young people the right ingredients that goes into the mix. Education is one thing, it's not everything. It's networking, it's knowing the right people, it's
Yeah.
finding ways to get through the system. And all these things are important. And the good thing is that today, 2025, it's a lot better than 2005. It's a lot better than 1995. It's
Yeah.
definitely better than 1965.
Yeah.
So at least we know we're better today than we were yesterday. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And we just got to keep building on it. And then remember that we all, immigrants, have our own responsibility to this nation to leave behind a nation that we found, but leave it behind better than we have found it. And that's what we
Yeah.
should strive for. And,
Yeah.
listen, I always say there's only three F's that you need to focus on, right? Family, fitness, finance. Everything else is noise. Everything else is noise. The world has so many issues, geopolitical issues, specific country issues, cultural issues. Those things will never get fixed by you not fixing yourself. And the only thing you can control, or have some control, I should say, is in your family, your health, and your finances. And if you have faith, also be part of that. But I personally, at this age, what I learned, right or wrong, this is my view of the world, is that you can only have any sort of impact is on the three F's: family, fitness, finance. Everything is noise. And I would say that what worked for me may not work for everyone. But one thing is for true is that the minute you think that you can do this because there's some nameless, faceless person is going to control your destiny, you're screwed, right? Don't teach your kids that, because why would they even try, right? Why would they even try
Yeah.
if I tell my son that, boy, doesn't matter what you do, there's a nameless, faceless person who's going to control your destiny. Why would he even try? It's a poisonous chalice. Don't do this to your kids. Um, Even with your best efforts, you may not get the outcome. But as you said, and as we talked about, at least you know you did your best to
Yeah.
get the outcome you want. And that's what life is about.
Yeah. Yeah. We're rounding the right now, so I think I have like three more questions for you. I think two are related, which is basically, and then you talked a bit about it. Like, how do established immigrants and their communities help new people see this? Because I remember someone said to me, "Welcome to Canada, make it better." Someone said she was telling me a story, and she said, and when she said that thing to me, it's just been in my head. Is like, welcome to Canada, just make it better instead of just
Mm,
complaining and whining about all the things that are bad about it. Like, you can see the bad things and you can point them out in ways you can,
right.
but it's like, how do you make it better? And I think it's, how do you even help people who are coming from your experience? And you see, if I see that you're doing that a lot, so what are you doing? And I mean, or rather, what are you seeing and what do you think works best? It's kind of give people a sense of belonging, give people a chance to dream and believe that it's possible,
Right.
while also prepping them for the realities that, look, trying to send to a new country is hard.
Right.
So, how do you do that? Like, how do you manage that?
It's a very important question, and I don't know we can address this in this short conversation, but I would say that um, the immigrants have to, I say, integration happens both ways, horizontally and vertically, right?
Hmm.
Um, Look, I am, and as I said before we started, I call myself accidental Sri Lankan by birth and a unapologetic Tamil by heritage, and a proud Canadian by choice. And the choice word that you mentioned. Um, so when I came, our community wasn't as established. So today is. So because that was the case, I had no choice but to start engaging people outside of my community. My first
Yeah.
good friend, as I mentioned in the book, Vincent from Jamaica, and we used to go and eat Jamaican patties and talk about life. And he had a Trans Am. He used to take me around and things like that. So when you start talking to a guy like that, you open your mind to different things. You see, you learn about the Jamaican people, the culture, oh, where they come from, and so it gives you much more broader knowledge about the world, and then you have more understanding, and because people are scared of the unknown,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so I think the Canada that we are seeing today is a lot different than I remember it. Where now we have clusters of people live in small pockets, right? So you could actually, like, if I were to come to Canada now as a Tamil, I got to go in this direction, right, east from where I am, and I don't have to speak English at all. I can go to a Tamil banker, Tamil insurance broker, Tamil dentist, Tamil doctor, Tamil lawyer, Tamil realtor, Tamil restaurateur, Tamil barber. So, and it's nothing wrong with that, but you just never learn anything else except your
Yeah.
culture and your thing. And that's horizontal integration, right? And you should do that. I mean, you should, as a Nigerian, you should be proud of your culture, your songs, your dance, your food, everything. You should be, and you should never be ashamed of that. But
Yeah.
then there's a vertical integration. I need to know to hang out with a Nigerian fellow. I need to know someone from Greece and someone from Italy and someone from, and that's the richness that brings this country, connects them on a level that gives us the common goal, the common thread that's called Canada. And I think that's slipping away in some sense because everything is bucketed into things, right? People of color and people of this and people of that. And
Mm.
divisions have become bigger, right? So I think it would be better off in an ideal world, right? Um, that we are better off paying attention to our current, um, not past divisions, but what unites us currently, right? And so again, it's a very wishful thinking because we humans are tribalistic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but you see that, like I saw this phenomenon in a very positive way during the 2010 Winter Olympics. Okay, I was in Vancouver at the time. Canadian team was qualifying for qualifying semifinals
Okay.
or quarterfinals against Russia. Quarterfinals against Russia, and I was in the stadium in a GM place or BCE place in Vancouver with my son, who was 5 years old at the time, and I never felt Canadiana like that in my entire life. Right?
Because everyone was
There's
just.
Sikh Canadians. There's African Canadians, there are Chinese Canadians, Indian Canadians, all waving the flag and losing their mind over this team uniting Canada together in one spot, like 50,000 people. And then there's Russians, right? And again, nothing wrong with Russians. It's just Russians just cheering for their team. Um, and I thought, this is Canada. This is how it should be. And I don't know what the magic bullet for that, whether it's a game, maybe it's something. I don't know what it is, but I think we need to. So to answer your question, I think I'm part of this organization called Institute for Canadian Citizenship (ICC), and I'm doing some work with them. It's really precisely the question you're asking, right? So what we decided, or they decided to do, is that a new Canadian comes in. We wanted to give the experience of Canada. The part of the problem is money, right? So if you go to Hockey Hall of Fame, it's going to cost you money. If you go to
Yeah.
I don't know, go to a museum, it's going to
Yeah.
cost you money. So
Yeah.
where they were giving either reduced rate of admission or free admission for new immigrants to go experience the culture of Canada, which will eventually unite you and round you out to
Hmm. Hmm.
have more broader vision about not only your culture but also the Canadian culture, right? And I think that's what we need to start to do more of, because you can't just come here and just move to Scarborough as a Tamil and then work in a Tamil shop, go to a Tamil restaurant and watch Tamil movie and go to bed. Nothing wrong with it. You should be proud of that. But it doesn't really evolve you into a larger, bigger community.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah. And sport. I mean, you just tell the story you said to me. Like, sport is one of those things. It's magical,
Right.
And it's also there's also something you said in the book, which is I've been thinking about a lot. Is that thing about we need more meaning makers. I feel like this we've lost a bit of meaning in the world somehow. And again, like I don't know what the answer is or how we build more of that, but we need more meaning makers across the
Yeah,
world.
I think what we shouldn't do is start to divide people into buckets, right?
Mm,
And that's when things go wrong. And because I know what that type of policies can lead a country down to, right?
yeah,
I seen it with my own eyes. When you demonize one group against the other, and then you don't see that group who was demonized no longer as humans,
yeah, yeah,
and that's happened in continent of Africa. It happened continent of Asia. But let's just admit this: that's a human condition, right?
yeah,
It is, and
yeah,
I think that's why a country like Canada is still a lot better than what I left behind, or many people have left behind. Is that it is still under, it is a nation of immigrants, and there is some um, light on the end of the tunnel in terms of the common humanity and the ability for you and I still walk outside without fear of your life.
hmm,
um, and so I think as long as people have security and safety and fair shot, I say fair shot at opportunity, I think the rest really comes down to us individually taking charge of it, doing our best that we can, and fixing the problem when we see it. And I always say, if you look at yourself today versus yesterday and you're better off today, keep doing what you're doing. If you're worse off today than yesterday, stop and redo something different,
yeah,
because you cannot do the same thing and wake up tomorrow and think that tomorrow is going to be better than today if you're doing the same thing.
yeah,
So even with that, and we said this, admitted this earlier, even with that, the outcome may not be what you desired, but at least you can only blame yourself.
yeah. Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Always, like always. Because and I feel like, and I know I've taken up more time than I planned to, but I have one more question. But let me just say this, and I
Sure.
feel like because I was thinking about I journal every morning and just try to just pour my thoughts on page. And I was saying something about how that, and it's kind of linked to this, was the idea that if you feel superior to other people, then you'll never be happy because you're always comparing because you're trying to be superior. So you're always
Right.
comparing. And just
Right.
that idea of comparison means that you're always in a state of what if, what, you're just in a very, very horrible state. And I think it's kind of similar to this, what you're saying now. If you don't put in the work, you can lie to yourself all you want.
Yeah.
But inside you, the thing about the conscience is that whether you believe in a faith or not,
Right.
your conscience will always tell you that you're lying to
Right.
yourself. And so you turn out being miserable. Sometimes, because humans are really good at doing this thing where we subsume that feeling so much that we don't really, it doesn't show up again on the conscious, but it's still underneath the subconscious, kind of just pricking you every now and then. And so
Hmm.
you don't know why you're not happy. But the
Right.
point is that you're just lying to yourself that you
Right.
put in the work and you didn't do the work. And
Right.
you're trying to blame someone else for it. But your conscious knows that, oh, Dozie, you
Right.
didn't do this thing well enough to deserve it. So why are you lying to yourself?
Right. Right. See, you can be upset at the outcome by for the work you didn't do. Right.
Yes.
And so, I think I mentioned this in the book. My son was a sprinter back in the
Yeah,
day.
I told my wife that story. I told her that story because I love that story so much.
Yeah, and he was a young guy, but it was a good lesson. You have to, if everybody else competing that day is resting up and stretching and drinking liquid and staying in the shade, there was my son running around like a maniac, like dehydrated, in the sun. And he was only 10 years old. I get it. But that what's happened. It's just the input was wrong
So
and the output is
output
going to be
was
bad.
wrong.
And that was a
Yeah.
good lesson at the very young age. And that's true for anything you do in life. I mean, I've done terrible presentations sometimes for investors because I stayed up too late, partying with friends or whatever, and go to bed 2 in the morning. You wake up at 7 and you're groggy, you're tired, your mind is not firing. And then you go a terrible presentation and you don't land the deal. And then you go, okay, I can blame the guy who put together a PowerPoint presentation. Or I can say, Roy, you should have probably slept at 9 o'clock,
Oh yeah, so true. I think the last question I have for you is if you look at your life, your experience so far from everything that happened in Sri Lanka to moving to Canada to really just kind of, I really admire how you fought your demons. Honestly, like it's not easy for people to do that, especially when you look at your past. Like, what's the most? I don't like to do this because I feel like there's really nothing like most important lesson, but I guess I would still ask it, which is like if you what's the most important lesson for you for any someone new to Canada today? What's that one really important lesson to kind of help them kind of build as they build their lives here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to sound exactly what I said earlier. Um, you know, I said this to myself, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is that you have to go with yourself every morning, right? Look at yourself in the mirror, and it doesn't lie. You know the stuff you did wrong. You know what you're doing right, and I always said I just went to war with the man in the mirror, um, and then that's all you can do, and and again, it comes to personal responsibility. Um, you know, you have two choices. You have choices in life, and the good choices you make, you'll be rewarded for. The bad choices you make, you will not be or rewarded for, or maybe even punished, right, for it. And that's the only advice I can give. And don't this is going to sound a bit strange, but I would say you never achieve anything abnormal by acting normal. And let me elaborate what that is. Would you say winning a Olympic medal is abnormal? It's abnormal, right? Because if it's
Yeah,
normal,
everyone
everybody
would
will
do.
have an Olympic medal in their drawer, right?
Yeah,
It's very abnormal to have an Olympic medal, whether it's bronze, silver, or gold.
Yeah.
But you know why they have that? Because they behave abnormally, meaning they have to wake up at 3 in the morning to train, right? They have to go to bed early. They have to eat certain way. They have to train, 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 train. That's very abnormal, right? So in life, whatever you need to achieve, if you think is abnormal, then you cannot just do normal things.
Mm.
So I'll tell you what I achieved in a small way was abnormal because I didn't think, honestly, I would be in the position that I am in today. Not a chance. If you ask me that when I landed in Canada, it took some abnormal activities for me to get to abnormal outcome, a good outcome, right?
Yeah.
But if it's just a normal thing, like yeah, just get up the same time as everybody else and just go to work and come home at 5 o'clock. I used to wake up 4 o'clock every morning. I used to train for an hour and a half. I did that for 25 years straight, right? Um, and I made sure I read every morning before I went to work.
What
You
time
know,
did you go to bed?
like 9:30, 10ish, I usually go to bed. And these are abnormal things, have the discipline to do it. And so you have to tell yourself, what is that you want in life? And I always said, job will give you a paycheck, a career will give you a lifestyle. And nothing wrong with either or, right? And there's perfectly okay to have a job, to get a paycheck, go home, have a happy life. And but then you cannot begrudge someone who's doing better than you because you don't see what they put themselves through to
To
get
get
to it.
there.
So, for an
Yeah.
example, this is the thing that you see someone like Brad Pitt on movie, and people go, "Oh, look at that guy; he's got a lucky life." But people don't realize the sacrifices man would have put in, slept on
Mm.
people's couches, and ate out of a can, and rejected so many times. People only see the what they see today.
Yes.
They don't see what went into it.
Yeah. Yes.
So I guess the advice is whatever the dreams in your life, and we are all entitled for our life to have happiness, whatever that the happiness is for you defined as. I'm not saying having a lot of money is happiness because a lot of people with money and not happy.
Yeah.
So whatever the happiness of the definition of people have or success is, just really figure out who else in that space has done what you want to do, and just success leave clues. Just copy some of the things they've done, and I think you'll get there. And that's my advice. And there's no secret sauce to life. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Like I feel like this is a good place to end this. Like, one, because I've taken up too much of your time, but two, because that's really good advice. Is yeah, it's right that part of where is make your choices, and because make your choices, define what life success means for you, and then make the choices that align with how you see success.
Correct.
Not when you do that, you don't do that, and then you start blaming other people, or you start saying, "Oh, no, no, just make your choices and live with
Yeah.
it." Like, make peace with it, because I feel like we tend to externalize a lot, and we project into other people. Like, no, like, because it kind of goes back to what you said about the three F's, like, family, finance, fitness, and the family is you fix yourself to fix your
Right.
family. Yeah,
Right.
that's the thing. You can
Right.
fix your family without fixing yourself. You have to
Correct.
fix yourself first, and
Right.
then along the way, your family just happens, and then the country gets better.
Right.
But honestly, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and we should meet up in person at some point,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. I want to. I really will want to.
we
But
can
I will. Yeah. Thank you so much.
explore more. Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like this is if we meet in person, this is like a 2-3 hour conversation because I have more questions to ask.
we'll do it again.
Oh yeah, that's also very possible. But thank you.
Well, thank you for reading. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we'll meet again and have more conversations.
Yeah, sure. I think if we were to summarize the lesson in this episode, it's just it all starts with you. Yes, you. But I hope you enjoyed this, because I did. I really did. If you know someone who enjoyed it as much as you did, please send to them. If you know someone who we should interview, please send them my way. As always, you can find us everywhere: YouTube, Substack, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Anywhere you get your podcasts, anywhere you get your stories, you will find us there. Enjoy. Have a good day.